One thing I just wanted to start with is that I am not an expert. I don't claim to have any answers. And I just wanted to make that clear for anyone who's watching, thinking like this is an expert panel and we're going to have all these answers. But what I am an expert on is my experience. I'm an expert on what I'm feeling. And I'm an expert on having empathy and caring and having courage to use my voice and lean in. So, with that, I would love to open this up. And as the panel comes on and shares, where they are and the answering the questions I'm going to be asking, I ask you, the panel, to just give a little context of who you are as you're answering the questions as well. So, the question I'm going to be starting with is, how are you personally navigating through this space and time? I'm going to start this off with Miles Johnson. So, Miles, how are you personally navigating through this space and time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So do you want me to say who I am and just like a little thing or?
Give a little
Oh,
context of
great.
who you are.
So my name is Miles Johnson. I started my career in the performing arts industry, Broadway community, and shifted into the business world about 8 years ago. And in that time, I have grown very passionate, which started in the theater community about just racial equality specifically. And so I've focused the last couple of years really digging into the diversity and inclusion community and trying to find a voice. I am a mixed race. I'm half white, half black. So I always found this need to see both sides and be bipartisan in this conversation. So how I'm taking care of myself right now and how I'm getting through this time is when I'm feeling strong, I do. And when I'm not feeling strong, I don't. And that's kind of the advice that I give to people as well. So, and when I do feel strong, I'm getting through this time through educating people. I have a passion for educating white allies so that they understand how to handle this type of time in life and be able to, and I try to provide a safe space for them to feel empowered to ask those questions that they get stuck in or are scared to ask because they feel like it might sound racist or they might sound stupid. So I am really focused on creating a community and a safe space for specifically white allies, and POC are also invited to the conversation, but creating those kind of spaces. And then when I'm feeling worn out, like I feel today, because I've been a part of 3 panels in the past two days, which I love and I'm so grateful for, but like me first for me, you first for you, everybody put on your air mask first. And so I learn as I get older that you got to take time for yourself. And when you can fight, you fight. And when you need to sit out, you tag somebody and they get in the fight and you sit down. So I've been preparing actually to sit down. One of my friends came and picked me up from the city, which I've been in for 3 months. And she and her husband live in Westchester. So she was like, "You want me to come get you?" And I was like, "Yes, I do."
Yeah.
So really important to listen to where you are in your journey with this and like honor that. And so I honor that I'm tired. So I tap out when that happens and tap back in when I'm ready.
Beautiful. What a distinction of, like, lean in and lean out, and the balance of
The breath.
knowing your capacity as well. Because in order for us to serve, we can't go over the capacity. So thank you for that, Miles. So I'm going to move this over to Kristen Lena. How are you navigating through this time? And share just a little bit about who you are, Kristen, as well.
Hi, thank you, Tiffany. Thank you. I'm honored to be on this panel having this discussion. I am a 17-year fitness industry veteran turned self-expression and truth-speaking coach. And, I say that, and how I'm navigating this time is feeling all of it. And what's new about that for me is that I embarked on what white privilege is about 3 weeks ago. So I was completely blind to my privilege and what it meant and how to become an ally. And so a little bit like a toddler learning to walk in this moment, in this new way. And what I know for sure is that any discomfort, any falling on my diaper, learning to walk, falling down, getting it wrong, is a small price to pay for what I'm actually committed to, which is that we don't live in a country that does what we've been doing for the centuries that we've been doing it. And so I'm navigating it. I loved what Miles said, is honoring where I'm at. I've been in bed. I've been cried 4 times in one day. I've cried to my daughters, and am here. And I'm here and I'm in the conversation and I'm committed. And so I feel very grateful to be in the dialogue today.
Yeah, I'm grateful you're here as well, Kristen. And thank you for that analogy and the visualization of being a toddler right now. Because with that example, it shows that we get to give grace to people who this is their, they're just starting, they're just leaning in, or understanding the full definition or the full experience, and that they are going to fall down, they are going to trip. And even people who are still in the birthing canal, come on out. You're going to fall down. You're going to trip over yourself, and it's okay. We need you to come out. So thank you for that, Kristen. Okay, Crystal Blanchette, welcome. Same thing. How are you navigating through this space and time?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm Crystal, and I'm a private chef. I work in entertainment as well as a nutritional consultant. How am I navigating through this? How am I feeling? It's an interesting question. Every moment is different for me. I feel just as angry and upset as I've felt most of my life. So I'm also recognizing that I get to stand in possibility and recognize that we have an option to either lay down or fight. And there are moments where I just want to lay down, because I feel like it's not my fight anymore. I feel like the people that I need to fight are white people. So, and I will say that even for me as a Black woman, it has been uncomfortable for me saying that I need you to fight for me now. So that's where I am.
Thank you for laying it all out, unfiltered. And that's really what this is about today, is just really being our authentic selves. And, that's why I started with the first question being exactly what it is. So thank you, Crystal. So next up is Clyde Davis. Welcome, and let everyone know who you are and how you are personally navigating through all of this.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Tiffany, for extending the invitation. Thanks for everybody who's watching. My name is Clyde Davis Jr. I'm what I like to call a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life. And more importantly, when it comes to this situation, I've been Black for my whole life. All 45 years of it, I've been Black. And being Black is a life that's full of a lot of uncertainty. So times like this, it hasn't hurt me as much as a lot of people may have said it's hurt them, because I've lived in this world of uncertainty about how people are going to treat me or how I'm going to receive my entire life. So for me, I'm kind of navigating it as it's sort of business as usual, but what's been encouraging to me that finally the people whose racism is theirs to deal with, not just the people who are the victims of racism as Black people, are starting to have an awakening that this is something that they must fight. And that part is encouraging me. So I'm kind of in the place where I'm telling people, hey, listen, it can't be the victims on the front line for this all the time. And it's really the time for the people who look like the oppressors to step in and talk to their friends, their family, and not just talk to them, but actually act. And because being racist is something that everybody knows what the issues are, We just have to be brave enough to tackle those issues. So I'm doing great. My children are thriving during this time, and we just have to have a lot of tough conversations with them.
Thank you, Clyde. Wow. So finally, Thomas Mangum, welcome. And please let everyone know how you are personally navigating through this time.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. Moment by moment, how am I navigating this time? It's moment by moment. And I think my natural tendency to be to run away, to ignore, to pretend this isn't going on, but it is going on. And it brings me back around to I want to stick my head in the sand sometimes. Other times I want to be here. But I'm just telling you, I'm going to keep it, just keeping it completely real. More times than not, I've been taught, keep your head down. That's them. It's not me. Put your head down. Keep staying in your lane, dude. No, this is my problem. This is my issue. This is my challenge. I have moments of anger and moments of sadness. I've shed many a tear. I've gotten pissed. The anxiety has been crazy. And this is no different than other times when things come up in the news and are going on. It's that same pattern. So I'm breaking that pattern. I'm being willing to be a part of a conversation I'd rather not be a part of, because that by its nature has revealed to me that's a privilege. That's a privilege to put my head down and just ignore it and hope it all goes away. But here are my fellow humans, which I love. I'm looking around the panel. I look in my neighborhood and on my travels. I love seeing that diversity, and I also realize that I'm ignorant and there are things going on that I'm simply not aware of. So it's one of the reasons that I'm here. I'm here and I'm willing to get messy. As our friend Judith Rich was saying, it's sort of like giving birth. It ain't pretty. It doesn't happen like it does in the movies. It's not pretty. It is messy. It could be stinky. You may say the wrong thing. You may do the wrong thing. And I'm willing to be here for that, because when I look back in my life, the times that I've learned the most and grown the most is when I was willing to hear something that I didn't initially agree with and let it sink in. Just listen to an alternate possibility.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, and so now we can all see, the diversity of the panel, not just in race, but diverse in so many different ways. And really, part of my vision was also that we see, yes, we are different in certain ways, and how similar we are in so many more ways. And really understanding that all the answers that we're looking for, we actually have them already. And Clyde, you alluded to this a little bit, that we all know what to do. This is not a new topic. It's not a new issue. It's just escalated now. It's like on fire. And I love the people who, they share that, out of fire comes, the new, and a lot of people look at the fire as being burned. Like, I don't want to go near the fire because I'm going to get burned. Yet I look at the fire sometimes when it's a change fire, like a fire, not like an actual fire, but something that's like freaking terrifying me, that what might be possible if that fire were to actually ignite me into whatever it is that might be on the other side. Because where we are right now is we can't go back. We're definitely not going back. Just like with the virus, we're not going back. So it's just so interesting how 2020 gave us so much so far. And, people are being joking about it and comical, yet this is all happening for a reason. These things are showing up and being amplified because we've been at a tipping point for a while, yet Mother Nature and the world are just, it's like, boom. And I can't remember, was it you, Clyde, yesterday who gave us the example of the soda? Or was that on the panel yesterday, Miles, where they were talking about a bottle of soda?
Yeah, you can only shake it so long and then it's gonna pop that cap off. And
Yeah.
kind of going with the fire analogy, it's like a phoenix. You got to like burn down, and I don't mean literally burn down because there's riots
Yeah.
going on. You have to
Mhm.
burn down your old ways of thinking to get the new ways to be reborn. And I think this time is really scary and hard, but it's also like it has to get worse before it gets better. And and the fact that the universe, I believe in God, so I say God, the fact that God brought the coronavirus and then this is now coming out of the coronavirus, it is pulling out, everything's coming out of the dark now. So it's like, you can't shove that back in the box. Like Twitter is now policing Trump's, like fact checking him. It's like things are happening right now that needed to be happening for a very long time. And it's energetically, we all feel it. And a lot of people are like, I just feel so angry. I feel sad. I feel defeated. And it's like, because guys, we're all connected. Like my white friends who reach out to me, they're like, I just feel so bad. I was like, and that's good that you feel bad, because that means we are all feeling bad together. And that means we are all connected. And then if everybody can get that, then we can work from there and we can educate. And that's why I take education as like, well, you feel like that? Great, let's work from there.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so that's a great segue into conversations. So knowing that a lot of education starts with a conversation, and a lot of healing, almost all healing happens with a conversation. One of the things that I've been sharing with a lot of people is you don't have to go through this alone. You're not the only one, but you are so not the only one. It's like the pebble of sand. It seems like it's the only one that's at the bottom of your shoe, but it came from the beach. So let's go around and just share some of the conversations that you've been having, even whether it's one that you requested for clarity or ones that you started to create clarity around. Who'd like to pick up that?
I will. I just got off of a group coaching call that I run, a group coaching program. And I have 2 white women and 2 brown women of color. And, I came into the call and I'm like, I can't generate right now in this moment. I can't generate like, woo, how's it going? Like, I'm not cheerleader right now in this moment. And so I opened up the question, how is everyone doing? And both of my white friends said, really heavy. I was like, thank God, because now we can talk about it. And so a lot of what I have been experiencing, this fear around speaking up, this fear around being misunderstood, being not saying the right things, asking the wrong questions. What Thomas was talking about, burying my head in the sand, that has been my process over here has been, well, I'm a good human. Like you know me and you know what's in my heart and you know that like I am not a racist. I thought that was enough. And so the conversations that I'm having, that I've woken up to, that I've actually been like, oh crap, white privilege. Oh wow. And here I am over here thinking I'm doing enough because I'm being, and it's not enough for me to not use my position and to use my voice as an ally to the Black community, actually being in action, using my platform, and using my voice to say, this can't happen. We have to make a change. So I've been posting questions. I'm tentative. I'll be honest. I have had one-on-one conversations with some of my Black friends. Like, I don't know what to do. This was back in like Ahmaud Arbery when his murder was occurring. So that's about when I started waking up to what I'm not doing enough of. And in those weeks since then, it's been in, doing my own research, asking questions, being curious, looking to see where are my blind spots? What do I take for granted? And consider I take everything for granted. So let's come from the position of I take everything for granted. There is nothing that I have to really concern myself with. And so my discomfort and my fear is a small price to pay. So I'm having difficult conversations. Difficult just means uncomfortable. And that's what it's going to take. What Miles was saying, you know, it's going to be probably a lot more discomfort for a while, until there is the actual tipping point where policy changes and, you know, systems are actually realigned. So, and I'm willing, I am 100% willing to be that ally.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kristen.
I wanted to just add a little something to that. First of all, thank you for sharing that, and I think that's beautiful. What I also challenge white people and white allies to think about is people who are Black and brown feel like that every single day. And it starts at a young age where kids carry this out of their house to go to elementary school. So like when you feel that heaviness, just also take that into consideration so that it doesn't just like fade. Because the Ahmaud Arbery stuff happened and it started to fade. People did their shouting, and then Ashley, the woman in, I'm starting to forget everybody's names because there's so many incidents, but the woman in Central Park happened, Amy, Ashley, my brain is like, what? But it's like, don't let it fade, because we can't let it fade. And so that's why I want to challenge to keep going with that and just holding it. And I know that hurts, but it's not going to stop hurting until you go through it like the fire.
Yeah, and I love that,
Very
Miles.
powerful.
Challenge accepted.
Awesome, thank you. And
Yeah.
I love that, because that's really a part of my vision, is that, you know, what I've witnessed, myself included, I'm responsible, that we all get charged up, fired up, activated in these moments, make a donation, go contribute in some way, shape, or form. And for some reason, we forget and move on. And this we cannot move on from. We just can't. This and the vibe, we're not moving on from either of these. But what we can do is move forward and progress. So another piece that, you know, I've been hearing specifically around both of these issues of race and the virus, and I bring the virus in because it's like, you know, you highlighted that, Miles, like it's compounding, is that so many people, and this is another area to check yourself. It's not an unconscious bias, but it's an unconscious operating system. To check yourself when you say, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. We are not going back anywhere.
And I would like to piggyback on that, because
Yeah,
I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and we were talking, he was checking in on me, and I was like, I can't wait for us to come and build this new world together, because we're not going to go back to the old way of doing things. We're not going to go to a part where we're not being honest with each other about the conditions that we're living in, and also placing the onus on the people who are responsible for it. I mean, I always use the analogy that Black people fighting for racism is like victims of rape battling against rape. Of course they're against rape. Of course we're against racism, but we're not the ones that have to change. It's the racists and the rapists that have to change. And it's the people who are around the racists and the rapists that have to change. It's their burden. And there's something that I think is very, it's been a revolution for me, and even my heart, to feel like, wait a minute, I've been around holding all this anger and trying to force these things through, when it's like, it's not me that has to change. It's the people on the other side that have to change. And that level of freedom and comfort that has given me has been great, because now I know I can easily say, no, this is a white person's problem. This is something that affects Black people disproportionately, but this is something that white people have to resolve. And it starts with just being honest about white privilege, the exclusion of Blacks, and also the history of oppression. And I always tell people that I don't hold any white person responsible for slavery today, but they are responsible for telling the truth about slavery, the impact of slavery, and reversing the effects of slavery. That's what they're, because they end up just being an accomplice of the slave masters, who they so vehemently try to separate themselves from in every conversation. They say slavery was a long time ago. Jim Crow was a long time ago. And I keep telling people this is a lot closer than what people think. Because if you think of Emmett Till was younger than John McCain. You know what I mean? If you think about how close that was, and that young man's life was taken away from him, his legacy was taken away from him, and people were going to make that like it's ancient history when it's not. You know what I mean? Ronald Reagan, older than Emmett Till. These are all people who are around and saw these things happening, and we praise them, and they're part of these atrocities. You know what I mean? And so we have to be very willing to have a reckoning of our what people that we've said are heroes, so we can deal with them honestly, because we can't deal with our icons honestly. How do we deal with ourselves honestly?
Mm.
I'm really glad you said that, Clyde. And I want to speak to those watching that say, "Oh, hey, you look like me, Thomas." And I invite you to take a breath, breathe. Please breathe with me. It's just maybe I know this is it's probably uncomfortable. You don't want to hear it. You want to put your head in the sand. But I'm not a racist. I'm from a good family. And and I have black friends, I have brown friends, and they go to my church with me and all of this. And breathe. I just invite you, please just breathe and listen to what's coming out of people's mouths. People do not burn down cities just because they have nothing better to do. People do not yell and scream and act because it sounds like a lot of fun. Something is out of whack. And if you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say, I invite you, please listen to me right now. Family, friends that have been questioning, Thomas, why are you on about this? Why are you even involved in this? Just listen for a moment. I'm not saying anything is right or wrong. I know you believe that you are good. You're from a loving Christian family. You've had friends that are people of color, and this is the and listen, maybe there's still something that might be missing, and I invite you to pause with me, because I'm no different with this. Sometimes someone says something and then it's like, no way, I'm not okay. Pause and just listen to the possibility of a fresh perspective.
Mm.
And so thank you, Miles, for what you shared with the uncomfortableness. Thank you, Clyde, what you shared about that perspective. You just taught me something. You helped me learn something, even in this moment, is that, oh, you're uncomfortable all the time? Are you really? Holy crap. I'm not. This is uncomfortable. This whole weekend is uncomfortable. 1992 was uncomfortable. Oh, now I'm realizing the only way out, friends, the only way out is through. Be in this conversation so that we can come to something. We can figure something out. I'm not saying it'll be solved in this call, but be willing to at least listen and be okay with being a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Thomas, because you highlight something so real and so important that's going on right now that I've been hearing, and it just happened to me last night when I called someone forward on something they posted on social media. Their first response was to defend their discomfort and defend the audacity that I step in and share in this climate. So the discomfort that white, and I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to lay this down right now. It is so uncomfortable for me to say white and black, because I too am like Miles. I come from a biracial family. I've identified myself as a Black woman, yet I never talk about black and white. I never talk about people in that way. And that's an unconscious bias as well of me protecting myself from thinking I got this all figured out and thinking I'm a neutral person in this party, which it ain't a party anymore. It's a fucking disaster. So, let's talk about that. And I'd love to hear maybe Crystal or from anybody that what can we offer to people, white people? God, I gotta let that one
Listen,
roll through.
You can use
That
it. You
might-
can
I
say,
know,
"Look,
it's
their
so
instant
uncomfortable.
instinct-
It's
hold on,
uncomfortable for
everybody.
me.
I hear you. Let me finish my thought. That their instant instinct might be to defend because they don't want to be uncomfortable, and knowing it's okay to defend and be uncomfortable, yet this isn't the moment. So go ahead.
I just wanted to say,
Yeah,
real-
I wanted to,
go ahead, Crystal.
so I just wanted to say, I agree as we speak about uncomfortable conversations and things that are uncomfortable for us, but really just kind of piggybacking on the question that you asked around the conversations that I've been having with people. I just want to address my experience with the police officers, and people are saying, Blue Lives Matter and these things matter. And so it's interesting because in my experience, what I've shared with my friends who's, either police officers or their friends are police officers or family of police officers, what would it look like? And I know it's happening right now, but what would it look like for them to just say, I'm here with you. I'm kneeling with you, because the issue is not police officers. That's not the problem. The problem is the system. The system is broken. So what would happen if we all took a stance together and said, this is wrong? What are you willing to do? If you're saying to me, I'm willing to be uncomfortable and have uncomfortable conversations, how far are you willing to go? Because I sacrifice myself, my life, my family, my children, my grandparents, everyone in my life every day, my job as a Black woman every day. So how far are you willing to go for someone else? Are you willing to risk your job for this? And as a police officer, and this is not about Trump. It's not about that. If you don't want Trump, go vote, So, and if you don't vote, then don't talk to me because that's we'll have a whole nother panel about that. But for me right now is, if you're willing to tell me that you love me and you care about me and you care about my family, you care about my children, then how far are you willing to go for that?
Thank you, Crystal. Miles, you had something as well?
First of all, yes, Crystal, yes. I just wanted to point out something that you brought up right before Crystal started talking about Black and white. And this is something that I talk to white people about in the White Ally Forum. It's like, Black is not a dirty word. White is not a dirty word. It's like, people are like, well, I don't know what to use. It's like, it's not African American anymore. So just so everybody knows, because not everybody in America is African, nor are they American. It's just a word. Black, white, and I know it's hard because you say it, and it's because it's ingrained in our society and teaching to like black and white is like, you don't say that. But it's like, same thing with like, people are like, well, I don't talk about politics. We are past that generation. First of all, not talking about politics and it's personal gets us where we are now. And it's time to like talk about things. And so I want to empower people to use the correct terms. It's like when you have children and you're teaching them about their private spots, you don't minx it when they're old enough to understand it. It's like, let's say what it is. So we speak power into the words so that we can use the words. It's like, we have to get past the semantics of just like dancing around what things are. And I think that's also a bigger thing about the entire issue of having the conversation. We can have it, we can use the words.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because just like you said, your foundation and like where you're leaning into is education. That piece alone, Thomas and I were having a conversation on the weekend that there's certain people who get frustrated that there are so many titles. Like, is it white? Is it Caucasian? Is it Black? Is it colored? Is it African American? And what a great resource that we can offer, right?
Colored.
Go ahead.
I said it's definitely not colored, if anybody was confused.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Negro is another one. My Negro friends, we retired that one as well.
Retired.
Yeah. So
well, I had someone ask me the other day, are you a feminist? And I just said, I think I have enough titles Like, I think I'm good. Like I don't need to add, any more titles to my, like, it's like Miles said, it's, I mean, at this point, let's just call it what it is. I'm a Black woman in the United States. Like, it's, I think it's pretty self-explanatory at that point.
Yeah.
That brings up what you were talking about yesterday about how race is made up. Like in our country, it's a thing. It's a thing to categorize and divide. And in a lot of countries,
completely a thing. It's a completely a thing. My ex-husband is from Austria,
yeah,
and he can't process, like, why is it on this form that I have to mark that I'm Caucasian or white, or why do I have to say that my kids are white when my kids are Austrian? Like, why do I have to do that? And it for me, I mean, we have a lot of conversations, obviously, with two kids that are mixed race. Like, it's like the conversation goes so quickly as they grow older, right? And it's like, what do you say? What do you not say? And it's, again, going back to what Miles said, is you just call it what it is. You call it what it is. And I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be an American. I am an American. I'm not, I don't live in Africa. Like, I mean, I would love to, but I don't. And I'm proud of where my roots are, where my roots come from, that I can trace my roots. I'm very fortunate to have that in my life. But my children have something even more solid than I have. They've got roots all over the world, and I'm proud of that for them. I really, truly am. And they shouldn't have to be identified within a box because someone in this country said that it matters what color they are.
But part of it is the creation of race is because we live in a white-centric society, that the race was created in order to separate whites, specifically from the Black slaves they were enslaving. Because if you looked at them as human beings, then you would no longer have the moral right to enslave them. So the creation of race is about centering on the colonizers and centering them as the epicenter of humanity and civilization, which we all know is wrong. But when you have generations and centuries of people believing that, now we're at a place where that has to be untaught, and not only untaught, but also has to be challenged in a very vigorous way. Because a lot of people have learned that in their mind that white is the standard and white is right. So they think that their default position is the right position, which causes a lot of anger and anguish. Even when people start saying they're using the term identity politics. And I go, wait a minute. So if a Black person says something, LGBTQ says something, it's identity politics. But if a straight white man says something, that's not identity politics. He doesn't have an identity. Like, he's the neutral party of everything. Everybody else is playing identity politics. It's about this centering on whiteness, which is a made up thing that allows people to grow within these things and continue systems of oppression, because then they see whiteness, they see that as the gold standard, or they see that as the where they want to be. And it's something that's also pervasive within the Black community, because you have so many Black people who have hated themselves because they've also learned because we read the same history books. All the white people were heroes. All the Black people were, savages. You know what I mean? And so it's pervasive through our culture, and we have to change that. You know what I mean? And we also have to just look at changing how we teach our history. It's okay that George Washington was the first president of the United States, but he was also a human trafficker. He also ripped the teeth out of human beings for his own teeth. He is a terrible human being. That doesn't change him from being the president, but you have to have real conversations with that. And people have to be able to disconnect their personal guilt to the guilt of their ancestors. And that's what a lot of people have a problem with, because they think things like reparations is a tax on them, versus saying, no, this is about repairing something that was broken, not a tax on you, or not had anything to do with you. And like, it's just like, no one's screaming. People right now are making more money than they were from unemployment. Nobody's screaming up and down, those guys shouldn't be making money. You know what I mean? But when it comes to the case of reparations, it's like, well, I don't want to give them any money. You know what I mean? It's really
Ooh.
it's not just it's not
Right.
logical.
You are opening up the door to affirmative action and just all the other, like,
Oh,
why do companies need a diversity and
and
inclusion
just every
program?
time
Like,
we open the
you're
door,
opening
everybody
up
else goes
such
through.
big doors. I love this.
Yeah.
I
I love it. So before we move on to Mile, I just wanted to take a breath and a pause here and honor and acknowledge everyone who's watching us live and who might be watching the replay. Go ahead and pop some comments in here. What came to me earlier is maybe even some of the things that you might be thinking, like when we went through the list of white and Caucasian and Black and African American, if anything else is popping up for you right now, it's all supportive and it's all welcomed. I just want to really make that clear that each individual on this panel is open and we are here to support. And we are also here to challenge as well. We're we're definitely 100% for forward progress. Miles, you had something you wanted to piggyback there?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Clyde's awesome comment about education. We're teaching filtered education, and we have been forever. And it's like very important to remember, and for white people to remember, this country was built on the backs of Black human beings who were property. Everything that this company, I call America a company because it feels like a company. I literally Freudian slip company all the time. It is. America is a company that is built on the backs of slaves. And so like when people are raging and angry, it's for generations of, if you've never been to DC's Black History Museum, oh my God, you need to go and look at this, the history of where you go down 4 flights to the basement and you go through the 400-year journey of Black people in America. And that is what you can do, white people. If you go to DC, go to that museum and learn about why Black people feel the way they feel right now, or anyone of color. We're talking about Black people right now, but I'm talking about Spanish people, Asian people. It's all other than white people. And it's like, we got to remember that this country was built on the backs of Black human beings, and then work from there as well in your education.
Ooh, so
I know, breathe.
Yeah.
Woo, but it's real.
Yeah, because what's interesting about that is, I love this piece about education, because I know one thing everyone in this company is, they could stand for our children, children and animal, like pets, dogs, like we all seem to come together for that. And, when you just think about the books and, even the groups and the organizations that have challenge, you want to contribute, maybe start finding these groups and these organizations that are challenging the history books in the educational system. And maybe that's something that someone who's watching live knows, and they can start posting those resources in the comments. And if anybody on the panel knows, we can add that in now or later. But yeah, so now we can see, and I love, Crystal, that you said this, that this is not a police issue. This is bigger than a police issue. Yet, time and time again, the public witnessing of this is through police brutality and police incidents.
But that's because the police have always been the hammer for white supremacy.
Oh yeah,
they've been the weapon of white supremacy. Whether it's right after the 13th Amendment, rounding up former slaves and putting them back into slavery through the prison system, police have always been the weapon of white supremacy. You know what I mean? That's why when Amy Cooper did what she did, it was her trying to call the weapon that she had at her disposal as a white person on a black person. It was like, okay, I'm calling the police. And that was her using the police as her weapon for white supremacy. And that's been happening for years. So that's why it's so apparent with the police, because that's the actual thing that we see all the time. We see it in our neighborhoods. I go to my neighborhood versus a more neighborhood, more white people. They're not policed the same. The same amount of black people do drugs with white people, but they're not busting down the doors of college dorms with white boys doing weed and cocaine. You know what I mean? But but black kids are getting busted walking to school with a nickel bag. You know what I mean? It's about being over policed because the police are part of the white supremacy.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, Clive, is that they're the system. They're part of the system. So we get to acknowledge that the system is broken. And if these police officers are saying that they're here for us, they're here to protect us, then put down your weapons and let people use their voices, let them march down the street, let them do what they need to do and say what they need to say and hear them.
So if I go all the way up the chain on this, I'm like, throw everything the fuck out. Like, government is in bed with big business, company, government. So it's like, Crystal, you said something earlier, like, don't talk to me if you're not going to vote. I have lost faith in that my vote means anything, because I know that no matter.
You get to do that.
I got it.
I don't get to do that. I don't get to lose faith in that system. Because my family died for that. So when I hear that, it's like, it makes me cringe.
My
grandmother was 104 years old when Barack Obama was voted for president. Before she died, she said, I never thought I would see a black man as president. Not ever. She's probably rolling over in her grave right now because of what's happening. I will vote every day until I take my last breath. Every day, every fucking day. Excuse me, Mom and Dad, I apologize.
Okay, so then I go up the chain on this. I hear you. I feel I feel you. And I end up at, so what's the solution? Like, what's the solution? If I don't believe that Biden or whoever we're voting into office is going to be wrapped up in this system of white supremacy, of education. We get all of our shit filtered down from the people up there, So what is the solution? Because I really do want to be a part of the solution.
We get to know the system. That's what we do. We get to know the system, know what you're voting for, know who you're voting for. Know when there are campaigns that are coming up, what are we voting for? People just go out to the polls and they say, I voted, but who, why? Don't vote for someone because they're black. Why are you voting for them? You should know why.
Yeah, this is also a big issue. And I love how you guys said we get to come back and talk about this another day, because we definitely do, because this is the year. And one of the things I even posted earlier today, because today is primary day, it's election day. This is the day to be out voting, whichever format you're going to be voting. And Kristen, you asked for a solution. What I have to offer to you is that the solution is never just a president. There are many elected officials. There is your city council
You
people,
start where
your
you can
mayor,
start.
your police, your governor, your state, and then just educating yourself on who resonates the most. They're not going to resonate 100% with your values and breaking down the whole patriarchy that's going on. But this is all we got for right now. So it's always the most. And then you get out there. This is just my response to your question. You get out there and you advocate for the candidates who resonate the most. So if none of those, as my grandfather used to say, none of those jive turkeys are jiving with you, then find the people that jive with you. There's always someone running. You could vote for yourself. You can go in there on election day and write your own damn name down. That's what democracy is all about. So the solution is to not carry forward the notion of my vote doesn't matter. And like, it's okay to feel that. God, it just, the weight of the world. That's why, Miles even shared in the beginning, like sometimes we tap out, but not with voting, because that is the ultimate power and the ultimate choice that you are given, and what a lot of people died and are still dying for. Because look what happened in Georgia with Stacey Abrams. Look what happened in Florida, with the last elections in 2018, that they were down to the minuscule, less than 100 votes. So everything matters. And it's just a matter of leaning in and finding the people who resonate the most. They're not going to be 100%, but the most with your values and the world you want to see for yourself and your children.
And I think the one thing that when it comes to voting, the things that we have to start looking at the smaller scales. The main thing you can do for voting is you're voting for your local attorney general or district attorney. That's the primary person in charge of the criminal justice system in your community. Vote for them. Vote for the city councils or county councils where you are. Seeing how they're legislating. See who they're giving contracts to, because a lot of the wealth building that has happened in the last 30 years has been transferring money from the public sector to the private sector. And that is money has been generally gone to white people. And so you have to take a strong look at who your council members are giving contracts to, who's your city giving contracts to, and go up there and speak to them. But also who's your district attorney, because they have prosecutorial discrimination. They can prosecute who they want and who they choose to. So you got to really talk to them about these things. And those are the people that have your vote really counts. Does your vote for president count? Yes, it does. But is it as impactful for you on a day-to-day basis? No, it's not. So there's things that you can vote for that's really impactful.
Yeah.
It's not
and-
just
go ahead,
voting.
Thomas.
It's not just voting. I mean, I'm glad you guys are talking about it at a local level. It's grassroots. Yes, because sometimes there's a fatigue, I think, or at least maybe it's just me and people that I know. There's this fatigue, and I'm like, what could I possibly do? Oh my gosh, I'm not going to run for office or this and that. Local, 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 local. And if you're not running for office, then you're volunteering for a diversity council. You're doing what we even right here, even if it's frustrating and it seems like, Kristen, that it's like, gosh, I mean, I want to do more. I want to create more. Where is there a diversity council? Or even just getting to know a person of color. I mean, these are small things that each of us are in different positions and places where it makes sense, but these all are cumulative. That's the snowball. Sticking the head in the sand and hoping it all goes away or it's their problem isn't it. Nor is it, Kristen, I'm speaking to you, nor is it, oh my gosh, I need to do something. I don't know what to do. That I get it. Let it out. We let it out and we get angry and then get into, okay, great. We all agree there's bias. We agree that it's not fair. It's not equal out there. What can I do? What can I do? I need to vote for these people. It's the action pieces. I think everyone said it to some degree, is creating some kind of possible action. And it's an experiment. There's a friend of mine that I think is in this conversation. He's a global director of diversity and inclusion. I know that if he was here right now, he goes, I don't know sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we experiment. We're not just in the conversation, because that's a piece of it, but acting something. Do we create a different part of the system? Do we strike that part of the system? Do I speak out on to strike that part of it? Start educating the other, I say white people, it's like, because I think this is you and me, Kristen. I really do. This is us.
And the other thing you can do is you vote with your dollars every day. Go to the companies that you support and go to their executive chart, and they don't got no person of color in their executive board. Maybe you don't need to spend money with them. Just imagine how powerful it would have been if in the 90s, before the tech bubble, if venture capitalists said, you know what, if there's no people of color, no black people on that founders board, I don't want any part of it. You know what I mean? That would have had, but because we have been left out of raising capital, not that we didn't have the degrees, we didn't have the ideas, we weren't smart enough. We did all those things, but we're left out because we didn't look a certain way. But you have to, as white people, as everybody has to look at where they spend their money, what they invest in. Are those people investing in black people? Are these companies is this restaurant have any black chefs? This restaurant group have any black people in the front office and management? This restaurant group, these are things that we could do right now, every day, to support anti-racist movements.
And I love
Yeah,
that, Clyde,
I love that.
because if you don't care about it, you voted.
And
Yeah.
that,
If
that
you
also,
still buy that, you voted with your dollar.
Yeah.
and
It's almost like, oh, I'm not going to be a part. I don't think that's a big deal. If you still buy it, you voted. Sorry.
And we see how powerful that is just through Twitter. Like in seconds on Twitter, there is a boycott here, a boycott there. And then I just want to weave in that other piece of education is there's so many elected officials in education, whether it even just the PTA president or, you know, all the some of the administrators are elected officials, that's a participation piece as well. That even if you're not a parent, that we still get, if it's, you know, a part of the county or the local election, you get to vote on these things as well. And I love that, Crystal, you said, don't just go in and vote because they're a Democrat or they look this way. And that's sometimes what we do. And sometimes we wait and we only vote every 4 years. And, you know, I love how, Clyde, you highlighted that it's really these local officials that are really setting the tone for our everyday lives. So thank you for that. And the,
Hey, Tiff,
the
just to plus that piece.
Mhm.
I learned this early on because I wanted to do something in my community in the mid center of San Diego, and I learned there are planning boards, there are water boards, there are all of these little tiny little elections that are neighborhood elections. It's crazy. You can win these, and you're still an influence and a voice. So just understand that even if it's the water board or the planning board, you're still a public official. You still have a public platform, and you can be a person of influence. It's not just Congress. It's not just city council. It's not just mayor. I mean, little tiny elections that sometimes it's just like you can be voted in by 10 people, 20 people, a couple hundred people in your neighborhood. It's
You just get your
crazy.
street
How
vote
do
for
I
you.
know
You're
that?
good.
I've done that. And then guess what? State senators, Congress people, all of a sudden you're someone. It's
Yeah.
shocking. It was absolutely shocking where I had senators actually speaking to me. I'm like, who the hell am I? But clearly you're a person of influence simply because you hold a role even at a local office.
Yeah, and what a great point. Run for office. I mean, I just voted on Saturday and all except two positions were running unopposed. Like, great, that
Oh,
makes the choice, that simplifies the choice, but it's just interesting to see that out of 8 positions that are up for election in the primary, 6 of them are unopposed. So awesome. We can go on and on and on about voting, and I'm thrilled that everyone is so charged up and in this conversation, especially on today. So
Are we
Miles,
warmed up yet? Are we finally
yeah,
warmed
I
up?
think
Can we go?
the preview. So did you want to add something, Miles? I know you were about to say something.
yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing in terms of for everybody, not just Kristen, because I don't want her to think that like this is all directed at her. It's for everyone listening as well has the same thoughts, because voting is overwhelming because you don't know where to look. You only know about the big ones, and you have to do severe searching for the little local things, and they do that on purpose so that you don't do that, and so that those
Yeah.
people get higher. So it's like there are resources for that, and they're hard to find. So if we could find a way to create like a resource for that, that would be helpful. And then in terms of voting with your wallet, also look at what movies are you watching? What Netflix shows are you watching? What Broadway shows are you watching? It's like if you look at TV, if I don't see a person of color in a television show in the first 5 minutes, I turn it off because I'm like, this isn't reality. Everybody talks about like Friends is the best show of all times and Seinfeld. I'm like, I've never seen either one, because in what land are you in New York City and there are 6 friends and they're all upper class white people? I mean, that is a lot of people's lives, but if you're going to be the most popular television show in America and not show me representation of something, like I'm not watching it. So like being conscious about that kind of stuff too is like, what movies are coming out? Why am I not going to see that movie? And why am I going to see that one? Why are people going to see Crazy Rich Asians, but they're not going to go see Harriet? Like I notice stuff like that. And so what I want is I want white people to also notice stuff like that and then go see that stuff. So I empower representation matters. It's why Barack Obama was so important to this country, because people saw themselves in a person of color getting to the top and they were like, we could do this. So representation matters, and where you focus your optics really matter.
Beautiful. Okay, so I wanted to say thank you to everyone. We're going to start coming to a close, but each of us actually have something for you that we wanted to share as a call to action because a lot of people right now are looking for something to participate in, to consume, to be with, to learn from. So each of us brought something here, and we have more than this one thing, by the way. And I just wanted to also highlight that there is an open public Facebook group, because I see a lot of you in the comments who are looking for the replay or to invite your friend in. I apologize, I forgot to open up the setting on my Facebook to public, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Facebook is censoring today. So anytime you use the Blackout Tuesday hashtag on Facebook, or the word race or the word black, your content might not have been posted today. So I just want to call that forward.
Which is
So
ridiculous,
that kind
by
of
the
took
way.
my attention away a little bit. Miles, you had something to say?
I said that's ridiculous, by the way, and I think it needs to be said out loud. So I'm just saying it.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, and we could even come back and talk about that. And I'm sure it's whenever something like this happens, you guys, I go to Twitter, because it's like whatever is happening, the Twitterverse is on things. So let's all hop over to Twitter at some point and see what this Facebook nonsense is.
And I'm good friends with the Facebook police, so I'm gonna go talk to them after this and see what's up with.
Thank you, Clyde. Okay, so who would like to begin with your resource that you would like to share with everyone watching live? And I just wanted to follow up that last piece. Is there's also a private open public Facebook page where all 6 of us are committed to following up with each and every one of you. We are all going to be looking at these comments later or as we pop off. Just so you know, it's challenging to be all over the place, like to have a conscious conversation and be active in the comments, but some of us have been. So our commitment is to come in and look at those comments. We will be over in the Facebook group, and just know there are more conversations coming on my platform. Every Tuesday, I am committed to having a conversation around race. In fact, next Tuesday, June 9th, this conversation is going to be about unconscious and implicit bias. So next Tuesday, June 9th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, this conversation is going to be about unconscious and implicit bias. For those of you who don't know the full story of me, I am also a leadership and corporate coach. So I work with the workplace experience within diversity and inclusion. And the resource that I'm giving away, complimentary, is a 22 question series for leaders, corporate leaders, to ask themselves and to then share with their company to check the temperature of what's going on right now and how to navigate as a company through what's going on. So you can reach out to me here on Facebook, or you can email me at leadership@evolveeq.com. Who's next?
I'll say what I'm working on. So as I spoke earlier, I started having white ally education forums. I had my first one this Sunday. So I plan to do more of those if you're interested in those in the future. We had a great outpouring of people wanting to get involved, and I want to organize it again. I'm not sure what the next date is, but if you check my Instagram, it's at livewhereyoulive.com. What? At livewhereyoulive, the letter U. Tiffany has tagged me in all her things, so you can find me there. But all information will be on there when the next one is coming. So thank you. Feel free to join that.
Yes, and Miles, we will also get you in the comments here to post that, and we'll post it over on the Facebook group so that people can get the link and just stay alert whenever you do announce that. And thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, who's next?
I'll go.
Kristen.
So you can find a wonderful recipe at Chef Crystal's World, and that's Crystal with a Z. I have Chef Crystal's Guide. Wrong handle. Crystal at Chef Crystal's Guide. And I am posting a recipe for recipe and conversation. So it's a family recipe of mine that you get to bring into your own home and have a conversation about race, religion, life, love, and celebrating some culture from me. And I'd love to hear what your conversations were about. So post up on Instagram. Again, that's Chef Crystal's Guide on Instagram. Thank you.
Beautiful. Who's next?
I can go. I have a free guide called Powerful Phrases. how to have uncomfortable conversations. That I will post the link to that in the Facebook group because I've just recently changed links.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. And who's next?
I'll go next. I want to recommend two separate books for people to go read. One is The Sword and the Shield by Peniel Joseph. It's a great book about the biography of a comparative biography of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. So much in our society, they have separated these two leaders in the civil rights world when they really had the same idea. We're coming toward the same idea, and we made them basically enemies of each other when they're both friends to our cause. So we want to make sure that people read this book so they can look at them as friends of our cause and not people that tend to pick one side versus the other. And then the last resource is a book called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I feel like it's required reading for everyone in this country as far as to get an understanding of how white fragility plays such a strong part in our culture. And that's one of the major things that we have to get over, that white people have to get over in order to have real conversations.
Thank you, Clyde and Thomas.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on that one, Clyde. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I just finished reading that book. Was it by Robin DiAngelo?
Yeah, Robin DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo, White Fragility. Yeah, and if you're watching this right now and you look like you look like me, White Fragility. And if you don't have the patience to listen to an audiobook or read that book, then go into YouTube and just type in White Fragility. And there's some clips and some interviews that she's done that's just a couple of minutes. The reason I mention these kind of things is because maybe you're impatient. Maybe it's like, what can I do right now? I mean, I don't want to get through a whole friggin' book. I don't even want to listen to a whole audiobook. What can I do? The other thing, besides even those clips on white fragility and these type of things, is just type in "Dear White People." And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you right now, because I Google this kind of stuff. I'm gonna just come clean with you. At one point this weekend, I don't know, I was in a weird mood and I typed into Google and I says, I'm white. I don't know what to do. What can I do about racism? I'm not kidding you. And guess what? Some good stuff came up. You can also type in Dear White People. There's a great article. I think it was by Dana Brownlee. She was writing for Forbes.
Yes.
And it starts, Dear White People, here's stuff that you can do. And if you're real simple-minded like me sometimes and can't think straight and fatigued and all of that, that's super helpful because that gets my attention. Hey, dear white people, here's 5 things that you can do right now. I'm listening because I'm just as lazy as anyone else. And my old white privilege is like, oh my God, I'm so friggin' fatigued. What can I do? And here's the simple ones. I'll just give you that and leave it. Is number 1, I think Dana even mentioned, was get to know a person of color. Duh. Or pick up the phone if you know somebody of color and discuss what's going on right now, even being willing to not say the right thing or not know what to say. I can't honestly say that if I picked up the phone and called Miles and I said, or Clyde, I said, hey, hey man, what's going on? I don't even know what to say. It's a start. It's a start to a conversation, and we don't know what's going to happen until we start, which brings me back to the entire point that I started with when we started this conversation. The only way out is through this,
I just want to add one thing to that amazing comment is before you ask your friends, ask them if they're ready to receive that. Because a lot of people reach out to people of color and they want their answers, but you have to ask people of color first if they're ready to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as we bring this to a close, I said we'd be here for an hour. We've been here for almost 75 minutes. So wow, wow, wow. And as everyone on this panel and everyone watching, you could feel we could stay here for 75 hours. We have a lot to share, a lot of love, a lot of respect, a lot of trust, and a lot of hope. And there's a lot of sadness as well. We're not sitting here thinking, sharing in a way that is not acknowledging that we are sad, that we feel pain, and it isn't new pain. None of this is new. It's generational all around. And so what I want to ask the panel is one final question to leave the audience today, knowing this is not the final moment. This is the beginning of the new paradigm. We are not going back to anything normal. In fact, that word normal, we just get to retire that word normal as well, because it's unconscious bias as well. But the invitation is always here for progress. The invitation is always here to move forward, not move on. And there's a big distinction between moving on and moving forward. And my commitment and my vision is to move forward. So in this final question, I'm asking the panel to share what they see as possible. Then, as a result of this, we will say goodbye. We will all be active. Goodbye for today. We will all be active in the Facebook group that is open. It is public. It is safe. It is respectful. It is here for all of us, us included. People are holding space for us as well. We are not the experts. So, panel, what do you see as possible now, given everything that has occurred up into this moment? And I'm going to start with you, Clyde.
I don't, it's hard for me to say what's possible because I've been living in this country for my entire life. And I know that my grandparents and parents marched for change. You know what I'm saying? I've been in all these marches and stuff for change. And then a week ago, I see another person with their knee on their neck. You know what I mean? And I hope that this starts the strokes the flame of inside of white people to say, wait a minute, there's got to be something wrong with this. Because before, people thought that police brutality and racism was just part of some collective Black paranoia. You know what I mean? You hear a lot of artists, and whether they're comedians or singers and songwriters, write about it, even in rappers like NWA write about it. And then you're like, oh, that just can't be reality. And then you see Rodney King, and you're like, oh, that may be a reality. And now 30 years after Rodney King, we still have to watch this kind of brutality on our screen. I just hope that it ignites people to say, well, 30 years of watching it, I actually now believe it. And we need to do something different about it. So that's my hope. Am I hopeful? Yes. But am I prepared to continue to live and continue to thrive under these conditions? Yes.
Thank you, Clyde. So, Thomas, what do you see as possible from this point forward?
And quite simply, an alternate possibility. And I know people have been asking this, probably been asked this exact same question, and we've gotten some of the same answers at all of those times through history where we got to a breaking point. It's like an earthquake, or a volcano, and it's just bubbles, and then boom. Or like the soda can that Miles had mentioned. And even if that happens over and over, I believe in an alternate possibility through conversations like this. I'm not sure this will ever be solved in my lifetime. I'd like to think that. And I think that was a powerful thing that Clyde just said. Is he prepared to keep living and thriving in this environment, and also have an alternate possibility that perhaps it can be easier, cleaner, whatever the words are, for us as a human race, not just as Americans, but just as a diverse human race. So anything other than this, at least some other new possibility versus the same old. And so that's what I see as possible.
Thank you, Thomas. Kristen, what do you see possible moving forward?
What I see is healing, deep healing between people, I don't obviously have the answers, so that's really my intention. That's really why I'm here.
Beautiful. Thank you. Crystal, what do you see as possible?
What I see is possible. Everything. Endless possibilities. I've been, since the election, I've been playing over and over in my head, Martin Luther King's speech, and, those words sit with me when he says, like, I can see the promised land. And I mentioned it to you guys yesterday. I can see it, and I may not get there with you, but I see it. And I'm like, it's time. Like, it's time. But like Clive said, I get to still be in a space of, the reality that we live in right now. But I do believe that it's possible for us to shift this.
Beautiful. And then Miles, what do you see as possible?
I align with that as well so much. I see change as possible. This feels different in my lifetime. I'm 40. This feels different than I've ever seen anything. And conversations are in a place where I've never seen them in my lifetime. So I see change as possible through reprogramming. And I think people are already being reprogrammed in a way they weren't because of this. So I see change as possible.
Beautiful. Thank you. And what I see possible is the willingness to not hide. I don't think the tipping point of people who have come out of the closet, the proverbial closet, has warmed my heart to either ask a question or ask how I'm doing, or just, state their anger or their pain. And that possibility speaks volumes, because the old paradigm was silent. And that's the possibility I continue to see grow exponentially, is voice, empowerment, safety, courage, and the willingness to keep moving forward. So I want to give one final thank you and one more additional round of gratitude to Miles Johnson, Clyde Davis Jr. I heard you in your intro. He's like, I'm like, there's another one here right now. Crystal Blanchette, Kristen Lena, and Thomas Mangum for joining me today, this afternoon. Again, you can hop over to the Facebook group that has the space for the conversation to continue. Each of us will post all of the links, how you can have a continued conversation with any of us individually, or experience the resource or tool or gift that we are sharing today. We love each and every one of you. We see you, we hear you, we feel you. We trust that you're doing the best that you can in this moment. We thank you for joining us live and watching this replay, and we will see you when we see you. This show will be back on this Thursday with Kat Hayen at 4:30, and we will be working through some tools to work through stress, work through anxiety, and work through anything that's going on in the body that you might be experiencing in these moments right now. And then next Tuesday, June 9th at 4:30, this show will be dedicated to unconscious and implicit bias. Thank you so very much, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.